She rolled into that dusty little ranch town like she wasn't planning to stay long, just another stop, just another paycheck. Just another place to keep her head down and her heart locked tight. Her suitcase was scuffed to hell. Wheels squeaking like they'd seen too many bus stations and motel floors, but the real weight? That was inside her chest. That was the kind you can't check in anywhere. She had rules. Hard ones, rules you don't bend, don't negotiate, don't explain twice, and the biggest one sat right at the top of the list. She didn't share beds, not now, not ever. Didn't matter if the guy was handsome, kind, rich, lonely, or looking at her like she was something rare. Beds were where things got messy. Beds were where promises got made and broken before the sheets even cooled. She'd learned that lesson the hard way. The town itself felt stuck in time. One gas station, one diner with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted burnt no matter how much cream you dumped in it. Folks stared just a second too long when she walked in. Nothing rude. Just curious outsiders always got clocked fast around places like this. She kept her chin up, shoulders squared, and her smile polite but empty. She was good at that, damn good. This job wasn't supposed to be personal, just ranch help housework. Light cooking, keep things running while the owner handled cattle and land and whatever else ranchers worried about. She told herself it'd be easy money. Quiet, temporary, in and out before anything had time to grow roots. Then she met him. The rancher didn't match the picture in her head. She expected loud, cocky, maybe the type who leaned too close and talked too smooth. Instead, he stood there calm as a Sunday morning hat pushed back, eyes steady like he wasn't in a rush for a damn thing. Big guy, solid, the kind of man who looked like he belonged exactly where he was. No show, no swagger, just presence. They shook hands, and she pulled back quick, not rude, just careful. He didn't comment on it, didn't tease, didn't look offended, just nodded like he understood something she didn't say out loud when he showed her the house. She made her boundary real clear, voice firm. No wiggle room. I don't share rooms. I don't share beds. I sleep alone. She waited for the usual reaction, raised brows. Jokes, questions she didn't know answers to. Instead, he just shrugged. Guest room's yours, he said, like it was the most normal thing in the world. That should have been a relief, and yeah, part of her loosened up a notch. But another part stayed tense, because men who respected boundaries without fuss, those were the dangerous ones. They made you feel safe, and safe was a slippery slope. That first night, she sat on the edge of that narrow bed, boots still on, listening to the house settle. The walls were thin, the wind whispered through old boards, and the silence felt louder than city traffic ever had. She stared at the ceiling and repeated her promise in her head like a prayer. Don't get comfortable. Don't get close. Don't forget why you don't share beds. Her past flashed in pieces. She tried not to name hands that once felt warm then turned cold. Words whispered in the dark that didn't mean a damn thing by morning. She swallowed hard and forced herself back to the present. This was different. This was just work. She was in control now. Still, as she lay there, she realized something else that pissed her off a little. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel watched, didn't feel like she had to stay half awake to protect herself. The rancher kept his distance. No lingering looks. No late-night knocks. Just respect. And that scared her more than anything, because she'd sworn she'd never share a bed again, not with a man. Not with hope, not with the kind of future that made promises feel real. She came here armored up, sure of her rules. She didn't know yet that rules got tested the moment you started feeling at home. And this place, this ranch, it already felt a little too damn quiet. And a little too safe. Asterisk morning came slow on that ranch, like the sun wasn't in any hurry either. Light slid through the windows, soft and golden, dust floating in the air like it owned the place. She woke up stiff, sore, and half expecting regret, but there wasn't none. Just quiet. Real quiet. The kind that either settles your nerves or makes him buzz. For her, it did a little of both. She pulled on her jeans, tied her boots tight, and stepped outside. The air smelled like grass, leather, and something solid. The rancher was already up, moving around like the day had been waiting on him. Sleeves rolled, coffee mug in one hand, feed bucket in the other. No rush, no stress. Just steady motion, like he'd been doing. This forever, and planned on doing it till the land itself gave. Out he tipped his hat when he saw her mourning. He said no extra comment about how she slept or what she looked like. Fresh out of bed, she noticed that she noticed a lot about him. Even when she told herself not to, they worked side by side, and it felt easy, too easy. He showed her what needed doing, explained things once, then trusted her to figure the rest out. No hovering, no bossing, just quiet confidence. She liked that more than she wanted to admit. Men who didn't need to prove themselves usually meant they had nothing to hide still. She stayed guarded, kept her answers short. Didn't volunteer nothing personal when he asked where she was from. She shrugged and said, all over, which was true enough. When he asked how long she planned to stay, she said, as long as the job lasts, also true. Half-truths were her specialty. He didn't push, didn't pry. Just nodded like he understood there were stories folks didn't hand out for free by midday. The sun was high, sweat clingy, and her muscles reminding her she wasn't used to ranch work. She braced for a comment. Maybe a joke. Instead, he handed her water and told her to take 5, no ego. No tough guy nonsense. Just looking out, that calm smile of his showed up, then not flirty, not smug, just warm, the kind that said, you're doing fine. It hit her sideways. Made her chest feel tight for no damn reason. She looked away quick, annoyed at herself for feeling anything at all. Lunch was quiet too. They sat at opposite ends of the long table, eating like people who respected space. He asked if the food was okay. She nodded. He smiled again. That smile was starting to feel dangerous later that afternoon. A storm rolled in out of nowhere. Sky darkened, wind kicked up, and rain came down hard. She flinched at the thunder, quick enough she hated herself for it. He noticed but didn't call it out. Just kept talking about the weather like it was no big deal. Like he was giving her room to breathe. That's when it hit her. This man wasn't playing a role. He wasn't testing boundaries or waiting for a crack to slip through. He was exactly what he looked like, grounded, patient, and solid as the dirt under his boots. And that made him way more unsettling than any smooth talker she'd ever met that night. She stayed up late, sitting on the edge of her bed again. Think about him moving through the house earlier, respectful, distant, steady. Thinking about how safe he made the place feel without ever saying a word. About it, she reminded herself of the deal. She was here to work. Not to soften up, not to start trusting. Men who smiled like they could keep promises. She'd been fooled. Before, she wasn't dumb enough to fall for combat. Somewhere between the quiet ranch noises and the memory of that look in his eyes, kind, unreadable. Real. She felt the first crack in her armor, not big, not loud, just enough to let a little doubt slip in, because if a man like that existed, a man who didn't push, didn't chase, didn't cross lines, then maybe the problem wasn't beds, maybe it was fear, and that thought scared her more than any storm ever could. Nights on that ranch hit different. Soon as the sun dipped behind the hills, the world slowed way down. Like somebody turned the volume knob to low. No sirens, no neighbors arguing, just crickets going off like they had rent to pay. Wind sliding through the trees, and the house creaking like it had stories of its own. The kind of quiet that don't let you hide from your thoughts. She tried keeping busy after dark. Washed dishes that were already clean. Folded clothes slow. Counted steps from the kitchen to her room like it mattered. Anything to avoid sitting still and thinking about how comfortable the place was starting to feel. Comfort was dangerous. Comfort made you forget why you left other places in the first damn place. The walls were thin, real thin. She could hear him moving around, boots kicking off by the door, a low cough, the scrape of a chair. Nothing invasive. Nothing wrong. Still, it made her aware. Made her feel close without being close, and that messed with her head. One night, she found herself in the kitchen past midnight, staring into a mug of coffee she didn't need. He wandered in like it wasn't strange at all. Didn't jump. Didn't apologize, just leaned against the counter like the night belonged to both of them. Couldn't sleep? He asked. She shrugged. Guess not. That was it. No awkward silence. No pressure to fill the space. They just stood there, sipping bad coffee, listening to the house breathe. Somehow, that turned into talking, not the big, heavy stuff, not yet. Just little things. Where he learned to cook. Why he never left the land. How she hated buses but kept ending up on them anyway. The conversations came easy in the dark. Easier than daylight. Maybe because shadows made things feel safer. Maybe because neither of them was trying to impress the other. Words just happened. She laughed once real loud, real surprised, and clapped a hand over her mouth like she'd broken a rule. He smiled, soft and slow, like that sound mattered to him. That scared her more than anything else that night. After that, the late-night talks kept happening, never planned, never forced. Just two people ending up in the same space when sleep wouldn't come. They talked about scars not showing M, just naming M. He mentioned a woman who left years ago, took dreams with her. Didn't trash her. Didn't turn bitter. Just stated it like fact, like weather that passed. She shared less. But more than she meant to. Sometimes she'd catch herself leaning in, elbows on the table, listening like his words were worth collecting. She hated that. Hated how natural it felt. Hated how her rule about beds started stretching into something bigger, about closeness. About letting someone see you when your guard was down. The tension grew quiet but thick, like humidity before a storm. You could feel it on your skin even when nobody said a word. Once, their hands brushed, reaching for the same mug. She froze. He pulled back instantly. No joke, no smirk, just respect. That small moment shook her more than if he'd kissed her, because it told her he was willing to wait, and waiting meant intention. Late one night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again, listening to him move in the next room. Thin walls. Shared silence. Separate beds. Her heart beat too loud in her chest, and she pressed a hand there like she could calm it down. She realized she trusted him, not all the way, not enough to break her promise, but enough that she didn't lock her door anymore. Enough that the dark didn't feel so heavy. Enough that the idea of sleeping alone started feeling less like safety and more like distance. Thought pissed her off. She told herself it was temporary. Everything about this was temporary. Jobs ended, seasons changed. People moved on. She'd leave before things got complicated, but as another night passed, quiet and close and full of unspoken things, she had to admit the truth she'd been dodging. The walls might have been thin, but the line she drew was getting thinner too. And if she wasn't careful, one more late-night talk might be all it took to erase it completely. Trouble never sends a heads up. It just shows up loud and uninvited, like it owns the place for her. It came rolling in on a dusty afternoon, right when she was starting to feel steady. That's how the past works. It waits till you're breathing easy, then hits you square in the chest. She was out front hanging laundry when she heard the engine. Old truck rattly. The sound alone made her stomach drop. She didn't even have to turn around to know. Her body knew before her brain caught up. Muscles locked, breath went shallow. That rule about beds? Yeah, this was why. The truck stopped. Door slammed. And there he was. Same hard eyes. Same crooked grin that used to make her feel chosen and small at the same time. He called her name like he still had a right to it. Like time hadn't passed. Like she wasn't stronger now. Rage and fear twisted together in her gut. And she hated that he could still do that to her without touching a damn thing. She didn't answer. Just kept folding sheets with shaking hands, pretending he was a ghost. The rancher came out then, slow and steady as ever. Took one look at her face and knew something was off. He didn't ask questions. Didn't puff his chest. Just stood beside her, solid, silent. And very much there the man smirked, threw out words sharp enough to cut. Tried to shrink her with memories she worked hard to bury. She stayed quiet, jaw clenched, heart pounding so loud she thought everyone could hear it. Then the rancher spoke, not loud, not mean, just firm voice, low like thunder under the ground. He told the guy it was time to leave, no insults, no threats, just fact. The kind that don't invite debate. The past didn't like that. He sneered, tried to push, tried to remind her of who she used to be. That's when she broke. Not in tears, no. She snapped. Told him to get gone. Told him she wasn't that woman anymore. Her voice shook, but the words landed heavy. The truck peeled out minutes later, dust flying like a bad memory finally taking off. Soon as it was gone, her knees went weak. The adrenaline crashed hard. She wrapped her arms around herself, breathing like she'd run miles. The rancher stayed close but didn't touch her. Didn't ask questions she wasn't ready to answer. I'm gonna pack, she said suddenly, too fast. Too sharp, old habits kicking in. Run before you feel, leave before you get left. He nodded. I'll be here, he said. That almost broke her inside. She threw clothes into her bag like speed mattered. Hand shook. Chest burned. The walls that had started coming down slammed right back up. This was the danger zone. This was when promises got broken and beds stopped. Feeling safe again, he knocked once on the doorframe. Didn't come in, didn't block her path, just stood there like a man who understood choice. You don't owe me nothing, he said, but you ain't alone either, she laughed. Bitter and tired. I always am. He didn't argue, didn't contradict her pain. He just said, not today. Those two words hit harder than any speech ever could. She zipped the bag. Stared at it like it was a lifeline, like leaving would make everything stop hurting, but her feet wouldn't move. Her chest felt tight in a different way now, like staying might hurt worse, but might also heal something she'd been carrying way too long. The rancher stepped back, giving her space, giving her power. That was his way, no chase. No guilt, just presence. She sat on the edge of the bed she swore she'd never share, head in her hands. Finally understanding the truth, the past didn't scare her because it came back, it scared her because for the first time, she had something worth staying for. That night felt different the second the sun went down, not heavy like before, not stormy, just quiet in a sharp, honest way, like the world was holding its breath, waiting on her to decide something that mattered. The ranch settled into its usual sounds, but inside her chest, everything was loud. She didn't pack the rest of her stuff. The bag sat by the door like a question nobody wanted to ask out loud. She found him in the living room. Lights low, sitting in that old chair like he'd been there a while, not drinking, not distracted, just thinking. When he looked up and saw her, that calm smile didn't show right away. He studied her face first, like he was making sure she was okay before anything else. She swallowed hard. I gotta tell you something, she said. He nodded once. I'm listening. They didn't sit close. Not yet. Space still mattered. But the air between them felt charged. Like truth was about to crack the floor open. She wrapped her arms around herself, stared at the wall, and finally said the words she'd been dodging for years. I don't share beds 'cause the last man I trusted broke me in one. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was respectful. He didn't rush to fill it with comfort or excuses. He let her talk. Let her breathe. Let her own it. She told him everything, not details. Not gore, but the weight of it. How love once felt like safety and turned into control. How promises were used like chains. How sleeping beside someone became something she survived instead of enjoyed. Her voice shook. But she didn't stop. She was tired of carrying it alone when she finished. She expected pity or anger or that look people get when they don't know what to say and try anyway. Instead, he said quietly, "That wasn't your fault." Those words landed deep, too deep. Her eyes burned, and she hated how much relief she felt hearing them from a man who wasn't trying to save her, just see her. She wiped her face fast. "I ain't broken," she said. "Defensive, I know," he replied. No hesitation. Broken folks don't fight this hard to stay whole. That did it. She laughed once, shaky and raw, and sat down across from him for the first time since she got there. She didn't feel like running, she felt. Seen the clock ticked loud in the quiet. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, voice low and steady. "I ain't asking you to change," he said, "and I ain't crossing lines you don't open yourself." She nodded. Heart pounding then, he said it simple, soft, like it wasn't a pickup line or a challenge. "Then share mine forever." She blinked. "What?" "My bed," he clarified. Still calm. "Not tonight. Not tomorrow if you ain't ready. I mean someday. When it don't feel like fear anymore, when it feels like choice. No pressure, no heat. Just a future laid out honest and clean." Her chest ached because nobody had ever offered her time before. They always wanted now. Wanted proof, wanted pieces she wasn't ready to give. This man was offering patience. She stood up, walked slow toward him, heart damn near beating out of her ribs. She didn't sit beside him, didn't touch him. She just rested her hand on the back of the couch, steadying herself. "I don't know how to promise forever," she said. He met her eyes. "Then don't," he said. "Just stay." That was enough. She nodded once. Small but sure, the bag by the door stayed where it was. That night, she went back to her own bed, but for the first time, it didn't feel like a shield. It felt like a step, because somewhere between the truth and his quiet promise, she realized something real clear. The bed wasn't the thing she was afraid of. It was trust, and for the first time. Trust didn't feel like a trap. It felt like hope. Asterisk morning hit the ranch soft and slow, like it knew better than to come in loud. Sunlight crept through the windows, painting everything gold, and for once she didn't wake up braced for impact. No tight chest. No urge to bolt. Just a calm she wasn't used to yet. But damn if it didn't feel good. She stepped outside with a mug of coffee, barefoot on cool wood, breath fogging a little in the early air. The land stretched out in front of her, wide and steady, like it wasn't asking her to be anything but present. That felt new, that felt earned. The rancher was already up. Of course, he always was. Leaned against the fence, talking low to a horse like it could understand every word when he saw her. He smiled, not that careful smile from before, but a real one, easy like yesterday. Didn't scare him off. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she answered, and realized she meant it. Days started stacking up like that, not flashy, not dramatic, just good. They worked together, ate together, laughed more than she expected. He never pushed, never reminded her of that night or the promise wrapped inside it. He let things grow at their own pace, like he trusted time to do the heavy lifting, and slowly, real slow, she changed, not in a way that felt forced, more like she was setting down weight she didn't need anymore. She stopped flinching at loud sounds, stopped checking exits without thinking, started sleeping deeper, dreaming better some nights. She'd wake up smiling and not even know why. They still slept in separate rooms, and that was okay. What mattered was the choice. Every night she stayed wasn't because she was trapped. It was because she wanted to be there. That alone healed parts of her she thought were gone for good. One night, weeks later, she found herself lingering in the hallway between their rooms, heart thumping, palms sweaty. No pressure from him, no expectation, just a door slightly open, and a choice staring her in the face. She knocked soft. He looked up, surprised but calm. "You okay?" He asked. She nodded. Yeah, I just don't want to sleep alone tonight. That was all it took. He didn't rush, didn't grab her. He shifted over, gave her space, like he always did. She lay beside him, stiff at first, heart-racing body waiting for old ghosts to show up. But they didn't. Just warmth, steady breath, safety. She slept, really slept, woke up with the sun and his arm nowhere near her, still giving her space even in sleep. That trust hit harder than any embrace ever could. She laughed quietly, tears prickling, realizing she wasn't scared. She was home from then on. Things settled into something solid, not perfect, not a fairy tale, but real. They talked about the future like it wasn't some scary cliff, just another trail to walk together. Maybe she'd stay. Maybe she'd help run the ranch. Maybe forever didn't have to be planned all at once. One evening, watching the sun sink low, she leaned into him without thinking. He froze for half a second, then relaxed, like he knew exactly how fragile that moment was. She smiled up at him. Guess I broke my rule. He grinned. Guess you rewrote it. Forever didn't show up with fireworks or speeches. It showed up in shared coffee, quiet nights, and a bed that finally felt like rest instead of fear. She used to think forever was a cage. Turns out forever was just choosing the same safe place over and over again, and this time she chose him.